In this video, I'll show you how you can get perfect, pure white backgrounds every time in your small home studio.
Adorama TV presents Take and Make Great Photography with Gavin Hoey.
Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that has everything for us photographers. And today I'm joined in the studio by Philippa. Say hello, Philippa. She's going to be the model for today and we're going to do a shoot that's all about getting your white backgrounds really white. Now there's no real secret to this. Once you know the basics, you can apply it again and again and get great results every single time. So let's start off with why you might need to set the lights for a white background differently to anything else. Let's start by turning off our background light and moving it out of the scene. I've got a white background here. This is just my white vinyl. It's quite old, it's been around. You can buy better ones from Adorama, I'm sure. And you might think that although it's white, it will photograph white. Well, that's not how it works, sadly, in the studio. Let me show you why. So I'll bring my key light in really nice and close. We'll take a meter reading for that light. So let's just set this up. And my meter is telling me f8. So at f8, if I take a picture, a head and shoulder shot, what I get isn't a white background at all. In fact, far from it. My background is almost really dark grey. It's sort of a thunder grey background. That's because of something called the inverse square law. Now you can find out more about the inverse square law by going to the Adorama Learning Centre, where there's tons of information and some great video tutorials. Now if I back my light up, according to the inverse square law, what should happen is that the white background becomes a little less dark grey. That's a theory. Of course, I've moved the light, so we need to take a second meter reading. Here we go. Okay, I need to increase the power of my light to get me back to f8. Brilliant, we're back to f8. Let's take another shot. Here we go. And this time the background has done exactly what I predicted. It's gone a lighter grey, but it just isn't white. If you really want a white background, you need a second light. So let's add that in. So our second light is going to go in behind Philippa, right behind her, so it's disguised and we can't see it in the shoot. But what power should I make that light? Well, we know that my key light is reading f8. So the power of the background light, once we turn it on, needs to be at f8 back here, or even a little bit more is ideal. So f8, maybe a third more, f9, maybe even up to f11. It all depends on how white your background really is, or how dirty or how creased it is. So let's take a little meter reading here. Okay, so I'm getting f18, that's a little bit too bright. So I can actually turn the power of the light down a stop or so, take another test reading, and we're getting f11. So my background's about a stop brighter, and I know from experience that's exactly what I need because my white is a bit old and a bit tatty, it's not very white. However, the most important meter reading is actually one off the back of Philippa's head. I want to know how much light is bouncing off the back of that white and hitting the back of Philippa's head. Let's take a little test reading here. I'm getting f5, and that's crucial. If this reading was f8 or more, in other words brighter than the key light, then all of the little fine hairs around Philippa's head would just disappear and you get bleeding over the shoulders and light coming across. It just wouldn't look good, and we want to flatter our model. We really do, and that's the key. Make sure that light bouncing off the back isn't as bright as the light hitting the face. That's the idea. Let's take a picture. Okay, here we go. And bingo! Exactly as I thought, pure white background. So as you can see, we've set things up slightly differently. We've got Philippa in it's a hexagon really, a solid, well-made hexagon. Actually, I made it myself, and you'll see all of the faults with it when we get to the Photoshop stage in a bit. As far as the lighting goes, it's exactly the same lighting setup as I've just shown you. We've got a rear light, we've got a key light, and once again the lighting ratio is exactly the same. The only slight difference is the reflector at the back here I've got the wide reflector, the umbrella reflector from the StreakLight kit, simply because it gives a wider throw of light and illuminates the background with a bit more spread. However, with this sort of lighting setup, you can really only do a kind of headshot because you don't get a big wide spread of light unless you have something like a Elastilite highlight that will do the job for you. Hence, we've got our little hexagon here because we only need to light the area at the back of the hexagon. See, it's all part of a cunning plan. And if you're wandering around thinking, well, what about the rest of it around the outside here? I can see all the stuff around the outside. I've got a really neat Photoshop trick to make that disappear in seconds. But we'll get to that later. Okay, let's do the shoot. Are you ready, Philippa? All right, let's go. Don't forget to check out Adorama's latest contest and your chance to win amazing prizes. It never ceases to amaze me just how much you can do in a small home studio. However, there are times when that small space becomes a bit of a problem and you need to do some fixing in Photoshop. Yeah, we try and get it right in camera as much as possible. But when it comes to white backgrounds, space is everything, and small studios, white backgrounds can be a little bit limiting, but Photoshop can really help to give the impression that you have a huge studio. Let me show you how. So here's a picture as it came off the camera, and as we know, the white background here inside of the hexagon is pure white. We went to all of that trouble to light it correctly. Trouble is, everything outside of the hexagon is, well, it's just the rest of my studio really, isn't it? So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that and replace it with pure white. And we do it by making a selection. So let's go a little bit closer so we can see what we're doing. The selection tool I'm going to use is the polygonal lasso tool. And you'll find it hidden below the normal lasso tool. This is a great tool because it works on clicks. You click once, it puts a little sort of pin, you drag out and you click again and you'll get another pin where it sort of just snaps it in there, and I just keep going round. I'm using the space bar, holding that down to scoot round my picture and round again. Now what I want is a nice straight line at the bottom, and to make sure it really is straight, there's another keyboard shortcut that's worth remembering. It's just hold the shift key. That'll always make your cursor go dead straight. Okay, back to that side and all the way back to where we started. There we go. And as quick and as simple as that. Now you'll notice there are a few bits here that go below the hexagon here, and we didn't want to use the polygonal lasso tool for these because they're just too, well, they're two natural shapes. And I use this white piece of paper to make the selection of these parts a little bit easier. So we could do it in a couple of ways. We could use the good old freehand lasso, and I could try and be really careful. Oh dear. Yeah, doing it with a mouse is challenging. Doing it with a tablet is a little bit more easy. But that's the small bits, but big bits like this, I'm just going to jump in and use the quick selection tool because it really is brilliant at making quick selections. And there we go. Let's just add in the toes, of course. And you can see that why I've put this white down here now, because it made making this selection so much simpler. Okay, so that's our basic selection done. Now I'm going to click on the Refine Edge button, which is at the top here, or under the Select menu if you can't see it there. And all I'm going to do is just smooth everything out so we get a nice smooth edge, and take off some of my rough edges from my woodwork skills. We'll feather it a little bit, not too much, and we'll also shift the edges in slightly too. Click OK, and that's my basic selection done. Now to fill in the outside with white permanently, I just need to go to Select in Inverse, so the outside is selected, and then I go to Edit and Fill. Make sure that white is selected from the drop-down list and hit OK. Select and deselect. Okay, so that's one done. Now, what I want to do is I want to stack these together as a group of images. So let's just select all of that and copy it. Now, to save some time, I've already put a few of these together. We've got 2 more to add in. Now, I often get asked by photographers, you know, where do you come up with your ideas? I don't know, but I can't help thinking I've seen this set of hexagons somewhere before. I just can't remember where. Anyway, let's add in the next picture. Let's go to Edit and Paste. And to blend this all together, I'll change the blending mode to Multiply. We'll just get the Move tool and we'll just drag it into place. Now, when I took these shots, I was using a tripod, and that's vital. Tripod didn't move shot to shot. So it means that every time I took a picture, everything was in the same place, and I can go and add these in again and again, and they should all fit together more or less absolutely perfectly. Okay, there was a little bit of wobble from the boxes. Okay, I may not be the best woodworker in the world, but close enough. And that little tripod trick just made this so much simpler to do. So we'll go and flatten that down, layer and flatten image, because what I want to do is add in something that we forget when we're shooting on a pure white background, at least some of the time. Because sometimes when you shoot on a pure white background, you'll go and make sure everything is white right the way from the head down to the toes. Trouble is, what you end up with is a picture that looks like your model is just floating in the air. You need something below them to land them, a shadow or a reflection. So I'm going to add in a simple reflection. So I'll go to my layer and duplicate the layer. I'll change the blending mode for this layer to Multiply, and I'll flip it up the other way. So let's go to Edit and Transform, flip vertically, and then I can just get the Move tool. As long as I hold Shift, it'll go nice straight line. It's that Shift trick again. And then all I need to do is drop the opacity quite low. We'll make a brand new blank layer at the top. We'll get a paintbrush, and making sure my foreground color is white, I can just draw a nice straight line again, holding Shift along the bottom to give me a pretty natural looking reflection. And there you go. There's my hexagon picture on its pure white background, completed. So there we go, the end picture is fantastic. Philippa was a wonderful model and I really like the end result. Now, if you want to see more videos from myself and the other amazing presenters here on Adorama TV, you know what you've got to do? You've got to click on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.